afraid because for some reason they think we all know each other, right? Like you're afraid, and I'm like, who? I don't know. And I'm like, who? What are you talking about? I'm calling you to tell you that Susie Q is about to cancel her wedding. I don't care about what Suzanne did over there. But they talk, and we all know. They smile in your face, and they talk. And then you have a planner who comes in who did a great job, but I tell people, I'm not gonna be busting dresses until I'm 60, I'm 45. And by the time I'm 60, I wanna be sitting on the beach somewhere, right? I wanna own a venue or something else. So when I leave the planning industry, I wanna leave it better than I found it, right? We are the backbone of this industry. And we're the ones that are probably the last ones sometimes to get chosen, the one that everybody tries to nickel and dime their rates more than anybody else because we don't have a tangible product. We don't have flowers to show, or photos to show, or a cake to show, or linens to show, or a venue to show. It's our service. So you gotta do it at the best of your ability and hire. And this is what it is. I always think it's a blessing. If somebody tells you something about a colleague, whether you know them or don't know them, you're like, oh, that sucks for them. But note it. Note it. Unfortunately, it's what it is. Now, with all that, the generation that's out there now, and I don't mean generation meaning age-wise, I'm just meaning the influx of the last couple of years on new planners. It's beautiful because they're learning how to run their business, but they don't know the minutia. And as you grow and as you learn things. And every time, every wedding, I say I started with a 2-page contract, now it's 25 pages. Because you learn something with every wedding. And if you didn't learn something from this last year and updated, the first thing I did was when things started happening last year, I ran and I was like, tell my operations manager, like, please tell me that that's in there. Because you said it and forget it. You get with your lawyers, you said it and you forget it, but you're constantly learning something. And at the end of the day, that this has watered down our industry a little bit. It's watered down our industry, it's starting to look sloppy, people are looking over us because we're not doing the best we can do. Some of us are acting like we are the end all be all, and our stuff doesn't stink, right? And we come in there, Terica said the best, service your clients, but also service your vendors and your venue partners. Putting time and attention into marketing is not the only answer to staying booked and busy. Focus and invest on planning, managing, and executing in the journey that you take your clients through. That will make sure that your calendar says busy. So maybe no one has ever showed you how to do this, how to plan, manage, and execute. You just kind of ran with it, and you probably had a mentor or two, or you Pinterested it, and you Googled it, and you YouTubed it, and you try to figure it all out on your own. And some of you may have reached out to a mentor or another industry person and try to get an internship or shadowing and didn't get a phone call back or an email back. I've had interns and lead planners have come work for me that they're like, you're the 30th person and you're the only person who responded back, right? But it's not your fault if you don't know this. For some of you, what you're going to hear that I'm going to tell you, some of these concepts, you might have heard it for the first time, and it's okay, because we have not created an industry where, let's face it, you're able to succeed or that we're able to help each other. Because it's competitive. At the end of the day, it's competitive. But like Terica said earlier, and Rose says, even David Totero said this, it's not brand new what we're doing. It's not a brand new concept. We're all just doing it a little bit different. Our sauce is just a little bit different. Northerners do it different than Southerners. I grew up partially in New York, partially in the South, so I have a little bit of both. It makes me really good. My Southern mom's like, you're not from here, right? No, ma'am. But on your wedding, but they're like, you've adapted really well. It's like, yes, and on wedding day, I'm a Yankee. With a Southern smile, as sweet as tea can be. But I get people, yes. I get people moving. So are you ready to become the go-to planner in your market? Yes. And I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna do it, and while you're doing it, you don't have to yell about it. You don't have to advertise about it. You don't have to say that everything that we've gotten, every award that we've received, every publication that we've been published in has been organic, and I'm always shocked. Because it's kind of like, well, why are you shocked? You're so kind, you're so good, like your team is nice. Well, that's just our company culture, and it's extended. I'm also a hotel girl. The hospitality industry raised me. So when last year everybody was talking about going back to what they used to do because of what was happening, I was like, this industry raised me, I'm here. I'm sticking my heels in the ground, I'm not going anywhere. And along came Small Weddings Atlanta, and we did 17 small weddings last year. And we're still doing them. So, first phase or first section is plan. So I decided to go ahead and go to our dictionaries and say, okay, what is planning, or what is a plan? It's a method of achieving something that you have worked out in detail beforehand. And then when I looked up an Urban Dictionary, some other things, it says a wedding planner is someone who plans and manages weddings as a profession. That's the key word, as a profession. So, I like to plan within these 5 senses, right? We've always heard of sight, sound, taste, touch, smell. All vendors, every service that your client will book falls underneath these 5 senses, okay? It is our job, they have big dreams, but we plan for real, right? But I let them also talk and tell me their entire dream. I don't laugh at them ahead of time, but as they're talking, I'm taking notes, right? But I want you to know that planning starts with a full picture and understanding of what they want, what their dreams are. Because some of them come on, they're like, I know what I want, it's expensive. Like, no, just tell me, because guess what? You might want a whole bouquet of panini. Okay, but I'm hungry, y'all, see that? Paninis, and it's December. And right now in the market that we're in, you probably couldn't get them anyway, right? But I'm like, but you know what? A garden rose looks similar, unless somebody is a garden snob or a master gardener, they're not gonna know the difference, right? It's having those things in your arsenal, like, oh, okay, because a lot of times they just want the look of it. They're not necessarily our connoisseur of that exact flower, right? Get really personal with your couples. Because again, 50% of what we do for them is plan for them and help them plan. When I meet with brides, when I do a discovery call, I tell them, after your OBGYN, I'm the next intimate relationship you will have. And they all laugh, because I need to know everything. Because as we start planning and getting to know, like Tarek was saying, an extension is their family and their guests. I need to know if Uncle Billy drinks too much, if such and such is gonna be this, if you have step parents. I need to know everything. And I said, I've been doing this for 24 years. Very rarely do I get surprised. Because if I've seen it all, and if it is surprised, it's okay. So let's kind of dig deep really quick. Site, of course, your venue, the views, what the venue looks like, lighting, right? Florals, linens, anything that looks pretty, anything that makes them go. I think one of my favorite moments is when we flip a room and guests come back. I love flipping rooms. My team thinks I'm crazy. I love the thrill of flipping a room. And I just love when they go in there for the ceremony, it looks one way, and they come back and it looks something completely different, and to hear people go, of course, after the bride and groom see it. This wedding happened last month. It's the first wedding at a hotel called Epicurean Midtown in Atlanta. We were the first wedding there. And we went on a huge planning journey, but a huge design journey to find her the right designer. And she finally fell in love with Akeem Clayton. And she completely trusted him, and that is her reaction when she stepped in the room, and his reaction. And I even cried, because I was like, yes. Because you sometimes don't know if someone's gonna really like what they thought they wanted, but she loved it, and I was like, when I was putting our presentation together, I was like, that is the perfect example of these 5 senses. But making a unique impact visually will impress your guests, but also make it memorable. Sound, of course, DJ, band, but also family and friends laughing and having a good time, right? The sound of that makes it really great. Taste, food and beverage, right? I always say, if the food is okay, but the bar is banging, no one's gonna remember the food was nasty. I had a wedding one time that the caterer ran out of food. The bartender pulled out the top shelf and she was pouring double shots. No, we didn't get one complaint because the food ran out. Especially the Latinos. The Latinos, I'm like, you have to feed Latin people because they like to drink. So we fed them as much as we could, and then we just top shelved it, and no one ever complained about about the food being gone. Touch, that's your textiles, your linens, your invitations, your stationery, anything that can touch. Favors, right? The fabric of her dress, his suit, anything that you could touch. Linens, furniture, again, food, because sometimes food, when you pick it up, it's cute, and there's a texture to it. Smell. It's often overlooked during the planning process, but it's also important because if you ever walked into a place and the food smells great, you're like, oh, For some reason, my floor at the hotel smells like buffalo wings. And every time we come off the elevator, I'm like, I love wings. I'm like, it smells like buffalo wings. So it needs something. But perfume, a certain lotion. We've even had weddings and events where they've actually had a perfume bar and people made their own perfumes. Those kind of things. Or candles. Now, I will say candles as favors. Don't put scented candles on the table because that changes the palate and changes the taste of food. Especially vanilla, just saying. Because I've had parents like, I want lavender candles. No, ma'am. You have lavender flowers, or some flowers that have scent, but something about candles changes the palate, the taste in your mouth of food. I learned that from one of my chefs. He was like, you don't you ever do that. Not even at home on your dinner table. Now, let them be extra. Let them dream big, and then help them and educate them and be real about their plans, right? Help them to find the perfect fit for them, budget-wise, aesthetics, relationship, all that good stuff, right? Take a lot of notes. Collect images from them. And one of the things I love about our planner is that, of course, we have the notes section, right? And anytime I have a meeting, I love notebooks, so I freehand everything, and then I sit down and I retype everything out so that there's one central location, because I've lost notebooks before, I've misplaced notebooks before, and had to go run back and get it. People in my team have, and I had somebody in my team one time leave a notebook at a venue and say, now I know why you say put everything in our planner, because you might lose the notebook, right? So you have the notes in the Our Planner, you have your design studio in Our Planner where you could actually upload photos in there. Now I use that in lieu of Pinterest. Like I let them dream in Pinterest, and then we get real in Our Planner. Because Pinterest, and after a certain point, they get cut off of that too. But once we get into Pinterest, we kind of go, Our Planner section, we kind of go back and forth until it's finalized. Like, okay, this is what you like, so that we could work on it, or we could share with our designers. We're like, hey, this is kind of what Susie is thinking about, okay? But then every conversation you have, also use your notes section, especially when it comes to the planning phase and their ideas. But every time you have a touch point with them, like I had a call with her today, I had a bunch of calls this morning, and so all those notes will be in Our Planner so that if I'm here and somebody calls the office, our VA could answer it effectively, right? So making real plans is our job. So remember, we are the experts, and they come to us to get the answers, right? So it's our job to know a little bit about everybody. I always say I know enough about design and food and entertainment to be dangerous, right? I'm not trying to do anybody's job, but have I made a bouquet on the fly because something happened to the bouquet? Or my florist has left and some auntie was like, I'm supposed to have a corsage. Sure, hold on a second. And I could whip up a corsage, or I've had to fix boutonnieres. I've learned enough that I can assist, but I'm not trying to do everybody else's job because I have enough to do, right? I have enough rings to manage, and I'm not gonna try to do somebody else's job. I've taken down drape, I put an up drape, all that kind of stuff because I had to. I've cut cake, contrary to what people say in these streets, you shouldn't cut cake. So what are you gonna tell the bride? We're not putting, can I go put cake out? If your caterer doesn't know how to cut cake, true story. Shelby's first wedding with me, the caterer, the restaurant, swore up and down they can cut cake. They were gonna cut cake. So it was a Persian and black wedding. Anybody who's done a Persian wedding, they do this whole knife dance. If you've never seen it, look it up. It's actually hilarious. YouTube it, it's really fun. And so they did that. They cut the cake. They go off to continue dancing. And I'm like, to the team, to the staff, come cut the cake. And they look like deer in headlights. And I looked at them because, of course, the owner wasn't there. I said, you're gonna cut cake? And they're like, these little babies, so young. They're like, man, we don't know how to cut cake. I said, do you have gloves and a hot pitch of water and a knife? They're like, yeah. I said, Shelby, you're gonna come learn how to cut cake. Now, did I bill my client for cutting a wedding cake? No. Does my client, I don't even think they know that I did that. Because we needed to do it. I've cooked pasta, I've served champagne, I put salads out, because we do what we have to do to get it done. But I also put a star in that vendor's pocket for us. He's like, wow, they did that and they were not nasty, you did what you have to do, and vice versa. Next one, manage. To be in charge of a company, a team, projects, etc., to administer or to run. Again, a wedding planner is someone who plans and manages weddings as a profession. So Begin this process early by assisting your clients to plan as soon as the deposit hits your account. Let me tell you something. I start planning people's weddings at discovery call. Because I'm like, I get really excited, but then I turn around and go, nope, I have to stop myself. But as soon as that hits your account, like what Terrica was talking about earlier, you have a process of taking them through that process. You're managing them, they're not managing you, right? Even though they're clients. My kids all the time, I always say that my clients are my bosses, and the kids are like, oh no, but you're the boss. Yes, but if I didn't have clients, I wouldn't have a business. But we have to manage them and not let them manage us. Right now I'm helping someone who's been in the industry before. And so it is a hard thing because she's like, I'm not gonna manage you, but it's hard for her. So I don't know, I think somebody said that, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, how many of us have gone to weddings or events and it's hard for you to enjoy them? Like I literally have to sit on my hands because I just can't. So I'm glad people don't really invite me to their weddings. So begin the process early, and getting to know them will help you to manage them and to manage this process. All right, so managing the dream. This couple right here, I love them to death. He's a cardiologist, she's an OR nurse. So you can tell meticulous people, right? So you always have to be flexible. If this year hasn't taught us anything, was to be flexible. And out of all the vendors touching this wedding, you have to be the bendable woman and man that you are, right? You have to be extremely flexible because things are constantly gonna change, plans are gonna change. Listen, last year we had a B plan, a C plan, a D plan, an E. We just kept planning. And eventually, after my clients had their fits, because that's what it was, everybody had their moments, they're crying, they're angry, they're cursing. I let them have all those feelings. And then I was like, okay, are we done? Now let's look at this logically. Here are your choices. And majority of our couples pivoted to intimate weddings. And now we have babies, and people moved across country and bought houses and second degrees. But we have to be flexible. So whether it's event times, locations, types of events, going from inside to outside, we have to be flexible. And we have to be flexible for our clients and also with the vendors. Next one, create, share, and collaborate. Again, detailed notes, detailed logistics, and you can create those in our planner, of course, but make sure that you are keeping your clients, all your team members who are working with you, your vendors, on the same page. So sign up for a CRM, create a central location where your documents and your files live at. I'm gonna tell you a story. So my husband worked for Apple for 6 years, and he was always telling me to get in the cloud, right? The cloud. And I was like, I'm kind of tired of that. I'm old school. Give me my folder and my paper, and I was good to go. I had 2 weddings, same weekend, one Friday, one Sunday. I grabbed the folder off the desk, the one that was on the top. I get to the venue, and it's the folder for Sunday's wedding. Because Missy Fufu, my daughter, who's mini-me, was playing at my desk and switched them around. So I called Mr. Tyndale and said, can you email me the timeline that's on the desktop? He said, excuse me? And he did it, and the last thing I said, thank you, babe. He goes, cloud, and hung up. Cloud and hung up. So you have to have a central location where you could create, share, and collaborate with everybody that's involved. Not only that, I used to have a coworker when I was a corporate planner that would say, if you get hit by a bus, she said, or win the lotto, I need to be able to pick up that folder and execute the wedding, right? I have a small handful of people in the Atlanta area that I can call on if something happens, and none of my team members could be there. Because then I can say, listen, here it is. Not only that, I have a VA, and my husband knows my passwords. So there was someone in the Birmingham area last year who passed away, caterer, and nobody had his passwords, right? So you have to have some central location where you have that located, somebody that loves you, and somebody on your team, or a girlfriend that you can say, hey, something happened, here's my outplanner timeline, or here's my timeline, or here's the documents, please take care of this. But it's also a good place to collaborate with everybody. Assign responsibilities. So review your client's checklist because they have homework too. And every time I talk to my client, whether it's full planning, day of, month of, whatever you want to call it, they get homework. And every time we have a conversation like, okay, so what's my homework? I'm like, check the system. It'll tell you what you do. Here's your next things. and you pre-assign it. But then you also assign things to team members if you have team members, assistants, VAs, whatever you want to call them, production managers, you have that. But so then it's your responsibility to follow up with everybody and make sure that everybody's on the same page, but you also have to make sure you assign those responsibilities. Manage clients' expectations. So in the planning stage, you get to know them, you get to know their top priorities, you get to know their budget and their dreams, but it's also your responsibility to make sure that you manage them and you do real plans. Because I think it was Renee, maybe saw Renee's presentation yesterday, with all these events they want to do. And they're like, but we only have 72 hours. And you don't have to be the cruise director and make sure that every minute of every day of your guests visiting for your wedding is occupied by something for the wedding. So it's our job to kind of school them and educate them, like, okay, anything is possible if you have the check. I had a wedding one time that she wanted fireworks in the middle of the city. And off I went. 8 months beforehand, I met with Fire Marshal Boyd. And he's like, when is this wedding? I met with him in March. The wedding was in November. He said, wow, people are typically calling me 2 weeks before trying to get a permit. I'm like, no, sir, I want to make sure that what she wants can actually get executed. And we did it. Would I ever do it again? No. Well, now, one thing was it was a long process. The other thing is we try not to duplicate everything. So I've had people say, I want that wedding. I'm like, well, that was such and such's wedding. Let's have a wedding. Let's have your wedding. Let's do something different for your wedding. So manage their expectations. Manage vendor recommendations, meetings, proposal requests. It is our job, especially for full planning clients, to stay on top of those proposal requests, right? So right now I have 4 or 5 requests out for a full planning client for next year, and I send the request in, and I'm following them like, listen y'all, I know we're busy, but these weddings are about to end this fall. Do you want weddings for 2022? Especially if I'm really close to them and I recommended them and they're not coming back to us. Now, our wedding management clients, they get customized recommendations, and if those vendors are not reaching out to them, I'm calling the back phone and saying, what's going on? Are you okay? Are you too busy? Tell me what's going on. I'll see if I can save you to be able to have that conversation, right? But we also have to manage that. So gathering all the necessary information for them. Vendors and venues. Now, Tarek touched on this. Your true VIPs, right? Very important to understand that the relationship that us as planners have with all our venues and vendors will keep you booked, right? As much as I love our couples and as much as they rave about us, every once in a while, I have 2 couples that we've gotten multiple weddings from them, like they're friends. But typically that's not typical, it's one and done. You may get called for a 30th birthday party or something for their parents, a retirement party or something like that, or maybe a corporate event. But a lot of it is a one and done. Now, for your venues and your vendors, that pays the bills. I'm gonna tell you right now, they keep me busy. Whether I'm on the preferred vendor list and didn't know it, while they're giving their sales tour, they're talking to them and like, okay, I think you'd be really good with Irene Tyndale wedding and events. And they do the direct connection where they're sending an email directly to me with the bride and groom attached to it, but they are keeping us busy. So it's really important. And also remember, as planners, we have multiple clients. We have our clients, right? They have their family and their friends and all their guests that are coming, but we also have our creative partners, right? But our creative partners are the ones that are paying the bills. Now, again, remember they keep the lights on. When you meet with your creative partners, find out from them what they need, right? Find out what their processes are, how they do things, when they pick up their flowers, like all that kind of stuff. Just get to know them and get to know how you can make their life easier. Anytime that I walk through a venue, I'm walking through a venue in the eyes of a vendor as much as I am a couple and their guest. Because if I walk in some place and I know the situation that my bride just dreamed up of, and I walk in there, I'm like, I don't know how we're gonna get a huge truck in here and this and that in there, and the caterer, the kitchen looks like a closet, it's not gonna happen. So you have to also look at that. And so you have those answers or those, because when you call the vendors up, the first thing is like, wait, especially if it's a venue that they've never been to, they're gonna go, wait, where's that at? Tell me about that venue. Tell me about that, and they're gonna ask you about the kitchen. the loading dock, they would ask you all those questions. Always ask those questions. Next, execute. My favorite thing to do. I get adrenaline. So to carry out or to put into effect a planned order or course of action, to do or perform something, especially in a planned way. Isn't that what we do? That completely sums up what we do. Now, if anybody knows who was the original person who said this quote, I've looked it up high and low. I've heard it. I know we've all heard it. You are only as good as your last event. Right? I personally have been doing this for 24 years and I still lose sleep the night before a wedding. I come home from a successful wedding and I can't fall asleep for another 2 hours because I'm recanting the entire day. My husband's like, go to bed. I'm like, I can't. So I go sit in the living room and eat something, watch HGTV or Hallmark or something to kind of calm my nerves, but I'm recanting the whole day. Right? What we do that day is great. I heard Rachel Hollis say this one time when she was an event planner. She always told her team, don't let anybody see you running. Don't let anybody see you running, because if you're running, that means something is wrong. So as event planners, we need to be like the SWAT team. There was a t-shirt that came out that I love New Yorkers. It said SWAT, if you see me running, follow, right? We don't want that. Now behind the scenes, it could be a hot mess in a handbasket, but in the front, just smile, just smile. So again, as wedding planners, it's our responsibility to know it all, not do it all, but to know it all. You keep 50 people at minimum together that day, between the wedding party, the family, the media family, I should say, and all the vendors that you're juggling. You're managing that many people any given day. Then you add all the guests who are coming through the door, right? So make sure that you know it all. So whether you've been working with a client full time, wedding management, day of management, whatever it is, AKA wedding coordinator, whatever you decide to call it, the key to your success is to execute the plan in its entirety, but be flexible at the same time, because things happen all the time. But make sure that you have all the information that you need in the documents. So, prepping for the excellent execution. We all know, come on, contract reviews and vendor communication is a key. Venue walkthrough. If you have not been to that venue, or if you have been to that venue, remember, Susie has not planned a wedding at that venue. This is her first time planning a wedding at that venue. So guess what? Walk through it like you've never been there before. Ask questions, prepare, make sure that nothing has changed and new policies has come through. Have a venue walkthrough. Have a power planning session with your client when you walk through the entire weekend. I don't only do the day, I do the entire weekend, even that week. If she has a nail appointment, hair appointment, she's picking up grandma at the airport, it gets in the final master timeline, because she's gonna need direction that week. Even if it's not a full planning client, I want her to have that timeline in her phone that she can pull up and know exactly what she's doing that day. So walk the entire wedding weekend, entire wedding week, step by step, vendor by vendor with your clients. Then create your timeline draft. Way before you go to your final walkthrough. As a past venue manager, do not, I repeat, do not go to a final walkthrough and ask your client questions that should be in your timeline at that meeting. Because that is a sure way not to get invited back into that venue. And it also shows that you were prepared. I've seen it happen 1,001 times before, and I'm like, this meeting that should have been an hour took 2 hours. And everybody does that. You don't have time for that because you have to go serve someone else, and they don't have time for that. So you have to make sure you do the power planning session and create your timeline draft. Your final walkthrough, that is our walkthrough. That is our meeting. To go through with the venue, with the caterers, with the florist or the designer that's there, with the couple, to kind of review everything that's gonna happen in a month, 4 to 6 weeks out. And typically, I always ask the venue, who do you require? I personally require the design team, especially if it's an elaborate design, the catering team, and the venue team to be present. But if the photographer, the DJ, the band, the list goes on and on, have never been in the space, that's the time to make sure that everybody comes into the space. Do they have to sit through the entire final walkthrough while we go through the timeline? Not necessarily. If you have an assistant, or take a few minutes to show them the loading dock, show them power outlets, all that other stuff, do that and plan that and schedule that into your meeting so that everybody's prepared on that wedding day. Final timeline and check-in. After you've done your final walkthrough, we all know we have a bunch of questions that need to be confirmed and answered. Clean it up, update it, send it to your client, and via email or the timeline system, when you do the timeline system in Al Planner, or whichever way you do it, and let them sign off on it. Let them say, now through text message, in an email, it's good to go, Irene. And then, and only then, you send it out. I sent it out the week before the wedding. I used to be a good little planner girl and sent it out 2-3 weeks and no one ever read it. I was getting calls, can you resend it? Because again, the florist, everybody's doing multiple weddings. So I sent it out the week beforehand, and then 2 or 3 days before the wedding, one of us on the team calls every single vendor. Physically calls them. I know that's unheard of, everyone's texting, but we physically call them and text message them. Hey, Johnny boy, did you get the timeline? Do you have any questions? Everything good? But I also asked them to do it, to reply to the email when they receive it. I had a big production one time, and in the production it said, if you, in the middle of the production schedule, it said, if you're reading this, I owe you $1. We had 100 vendors participating that weekend. I gave out $5. And literally, I had the cash in my pocket, and I was like, someone's like, so where's my dollar? I was like, I read your timeline, where's my dollar? I was like, oh hey! I gave out $5, even though I had 100 vendors that I worked with that weekend. Only 5 said, hey Irene, where's my dollar? And then other people were like, why did you get $1? He's like, don't you want to know? They didn't read the timeline. And then of course, the last thing we do is execute it. Execute the plan that we put into place, right? Make sure that you bring enough copies to before that to the timeline for everybody that's there. I also have a couple extra timelines with me on wedding day for those who did not read it ahead of time. I always have that. Also, we have it on our phone. Everybody in my team has Dropbox, so everything, that diagrams, seating charts, the timeline, any important contracts, any releases or whatever, everybody has a Dropbox. It says Susie and Johnny's wedding 10/10/20, and everybody has that. So just in case, I'm notorious for putting down my folder, and I can't tell you where it's at. So I have it on my phone. I pull it on my phone, so we all have it on our phone quickly. And then if we have to babysit anybody or stand next to the DJ to make sure that they play the right songs, we'll do that too, because we have it on our timeline. So, how do you become the go-to planner in your market? Commit today to becoming the planner that gets referred to by clients and vendors alike, right? You want to be the person that is known in your area who is executing weddings flawlessly. Because again, it's great that we have great social media and great websites and all that stuff, but if you're not doing the work on the back at the end, it's not gonna matter. Because that is what everybody talks about. Because you cannot cover up bad service with great marketing. And we've all seen it. We've all seen it. Like, Caribbean people say, stay in your yard. Stay in your backyard, do what you need to do the best, and stop worrying about what everybody else is doing on their platforms and in their businesses. So, like I said before, I'm passionate about teaching planners how to plan, manage, and execute. Because again, we are the backbone of this industry. We are the directors of our clients' epic movies, right? Atlanta is the Hollywood of the South, right? We're always having movies. We are the directors of those epic movies. Remember, we don't have a tangible product to sell, so they can't really see what we do, right, or what we sell. So build a strong planning journey for your clients in the managing and planning and executing process. And I promise you that that's the biggest tool, the biggest marketing tool, the biggest selling tool that you'll have. This will give you referrals. This will have your clients raving about you and referring their friends. This will keep you booked, busy, and blessed. So on your flights home, here's some homework, or doing your CEO sprints. My coaches in the room said we have CEO sprint days. I want you to write your current planning journey for your clients. So you kind of write it out. And I had my coaching clients do this recently, and they were all stumped. I'm like, it's what we do day to day. What we do day to day becomes our systems and our workflow. What we do naturally becomes our system and our workflow, especially those who want to grow their team. Sarah's going to be up next talking about growing your teams. You cannot grow a team if they don't know how to do what you do, right? It's okay if you don't want to grow a team, you want to be a solopreneur and be the only planner, that's cool too. But if you want to grow a team, you have to know these processes. So don't overthink it, which I know as planners we're guilty of because we're overthinkers. We get paid to overthink, we get paid to worry. I'm a natural worrier, and my husband's like, you found a career that pays you to worry. So it's not in vain. So take notes of the areas that you feel that you need to improve on or things that you need to learn. It's hard to market what you don't know how to sell and you don't know what to do. So back in February, because I got tired of, instead of complaining about it, I decided to do a solution. So back in February, I started a wedding management roofing course, which was a 6 to 7 week live course that teaches you how to plan, manage, and execute weddings. I basically opened up my laptop and said, this is how I do it, and answered every question. I had 15 women. So definitely, with your QR codes, you guys can see more information on that. And let me know let me ask you one more time. Do you have room to be a better planner?
Yes.
Right. Now, if you only take away one thing from this presentation, it's our job to know it all. Not do it all, but know it all. Those of you who are nosy, type A personalities, that's what we do, so do that. So thank you very much for listening to me today. Do you have any questions? Yes.
I have a question going back to the final walkthrough. You mentioned it twice, so do you suggest 2?
Yeah, so what I tend to do is
present or?
Yeah, so what I tend to do, especially if I've never worked in this venue, or if I worked in this venue and I know that client's situation is going to be a little different than the last time we were in there, I do 45 to 60 days before. I actually walk through the space with my clients, especially for wedding management clients. Because again, remember, this is a business for us, right? They're signing contracts, but they're like in a haze. They're like in this beautiful purple haze for weddings. They're signing things with stars in the eyes. They don't remember if the draping was white or ivory. They don't remember the policies and procedures, none of that. They're like, I love that venue, it's perfect, and they book it. So I like to walk the space to rethink what they've planned, or to even create the diagram. Sometimes they don't have the diagram created. Or just make sure that it makes sense what they were thinking. And then the final walkthrough is really just to go over the timeline and to confirm everything with the venue.
And that will be with the vendors, not the couple.
Right. So I do a venue walkthrough with just the couple. And sometimes the designer comes along at that point too, just to kind of like hash it out. But then we do a final. Because when we do a venue walkthrough and it's the couple, and then if I go with the designer, it's making sure that what they designed, they're just confirming everything. And then the final walkthrough is everybody that needs to be there. So, yeah, I definitely do more than.
And do they usually, the vendors, do they usually go to the meeting present?
They do the final walkthrough.
Yeah.
Now, venue walkthrough, which I do, again, depending, 60, for my full planning clients, we go a bunch of times.